Dr. Van Tola is debuting an online course on mastering your stress. So what he is looking for today is clarity on the introduction of the course and the use of technology if something goes wrong, like it ever does. Case in point. So, does stress and fear get in your way? Would you like to know more about mastering your stress? Do you yearn to provide more for your world? If so, you are in the right room because today's speaker is a certified heart math practitioner, wellness chiropractor, and nature lover. So please welcome stress expert, author of Healing Verses of the Psalm, and a die-hard anti-therapist fan, Dr. Steve Mitchell. Thank you.
Imagine you're all online right now, so good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Great to have you. I'm so glad to be able to introduce my course to you. But, you know, how was your day today? So we just want to begin with like that. So, Luette, how was your day today?
Oh, my day was excellent, Steve. Thanks for asking.
Good, very good. Okay. I thought maybe we can go around. Maybe, Zachary, you can introduce yourself and
Yes.
say why you're in this class. And
All right. I'm Zachary Carter, and what was that about?
master your stress.
Mastering my stress, of course. I was divorced. I went through a divorce. I actually did. And ever since then, stress has been a little out of control. I grind my teeth in my sleep, so I'm looking for a good night's sleep. I'm hoping you have the answer, to open up the doors to a peaceful night.
Yes, very good. Dennis, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I've had a good day, but I was really stressed out because I was at the speaker lab that I go to, and I was getting all this feed. No, yeah, I need to lower my stress. I get triggered by. I think we've talked about this about traffic and stresses like that, and then unexpected things. So yeah.
I think we all have a story why we're in this course there, and Zachary, that was some story of yours there? Yeah. So let's look at some of the benefits of this class, or the main intention. Master your stress with heart math, nutrition, and your own innate wisdom. Now, you've seen that outline I've sent out to you before. Just to reemphasize, it's a 5-week course designed to help integrity-minded individuals better master the stress in their life so they can experience greater health. Now, you taking this class, you are an integrity-minded person. For you, it's helpful to know more about how to master stress. That's my promise to you, is to help you master your stress better. So in turn, you're more able to healthily influence your world spiritually, mentally, physically, socially, and financially. So that big idea here is, as we master our stress, then we can offer a greater, sane, sound influence into the world. When you say, the world, that's why you're here. You know the world needs that. So that's what we're about this evening and for the next 5 weeks. We're looking at live coaching calls, so these times will be very interactive. Basically, I won't be looking at the chat box so much, so you're going to unmute yourself and just chip right in. If you have a comment to make, we'll have recording these calls, so if you have to miss, you can make up, you can listen to them later. We'll have one email from me, phone support, email support, a reasonable amount. So, if you really want to get into detail, then we'll look to see how we can do something on the side from the class. But you'll have me to ask your questions to really understand how to master your stress through this course. Tools to relieve. The idea is tools to relieve and master your stress, and tools to use your stress as a growth and transformative experience. You ever think of it that way? That actually your stress is useful for your own growth and transformation. I really think that's a good thing to target, and that's part of my intent of this course. It'll be 5 weeks, so this week we're looking at Mastering Your Stress, the big picture overview. So we'll be talking about that in this evening, but just to review, week 2, why heart math? Now, it's mastering stress with heart math, nutrition, and your own innate wisdom. So heart math is a tool, is a system using technology and conscious tools in order to better master our stress. The following week, or in November 30th, we'll skip Thanksgiving, we'll work around Thanksgiving, and we'll focus on how to practice heart math. Now, you think about Thanksgiving and the holidays coming up, this is a pretty strategic time to actually prepare ourselves for the holiday stresses that come along. So we'll work around Thanksgiving and we'll prepare ourselves for further holidays later. December 7th, we'll go introducing essentials of nutrition for mastering stress. Now, I recognize that when we're nutritionally sound, when we're eating correctly, when we're supplying with the proper nutrients, it's going to give us a good physiological background to have more resilience in handling stresses. And then December 14th, we'll conclude our sessions, we'll review how we've done over the time, during that time, and we'll see what next steps are helpful. Now, just keep in mind that this is a pilot course, so it's not so much of me talking with you, it's going to be a co-creative process where your feedback will be vital in terms of the development of this course for a greater launching in the world that you're playing a part now in order for your own benefit, but also for the benefit of the greater world. So keep that in mind. Now also, since it's my first online course, usually I'm easy doing lectures and presentations, but technology is a little out of my comfort zone. So bear with me if certain glitches come up and if I need a little practice with that. So let's get started. Master your stress with heart math, nutrition, and your own innate wisdom. And we end it right there. That was my
Awesome.
Yes,
What was awesome about a prom card?
Oh, well. Thank you for prompting. Well, first of all, is this real? Can I wanna be involved.
it starts tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'd like to be involved.
Let's talk
Okay.
about that.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool stuff. Yeah, I love your presence was great. Yeah, it was awesome. Mastering stress, very clear. Yeah, very clear theme. I'm not confused at all. I'm like, I understand. Cool, which is why I want to sign up for it. Like, so. Okay, a great intro. Awesome introduction. That was awesome. I mean, anytime we have a fun reference of like a diehard Andy Griffith fan, things like that, that sets the tone. It's like, so, and then all of us have the song in our head. You know what I mean? So thank you. But great intro, like really funny, really lighthearted. Set a great vibe for your presence. I can already tell your facilitation style. How many people? Is there a cap on this?
Actually, there's no cap. Right now, I wanted to start with a small pilot and then work with a little larger pilot before I launch a larger course. So
Okay.
we have 4 participants.
Okay.
So I feel more nervous talking to you guys than I feel like tonight.
Sure. So it'll be easy tonight. Great, good job. That's always one of the best things to do is to do something more difficult, and then the actual thing that you're working for, so it becomes easy. Okay, cool. And then how many are you wanting to grow it into?
The next pilot will be up to 12.
Okay.
So my target was 6, then 12, and then do an online course.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that is just for the open-ended questions. Like, because I've done actually some online courses, and I've done facilitation like this, where I've had up to 16 people, and when we ask the open-ended questions, sometimes it can go a long time before you get to the content. So just to be aware of that, to be mindful of that. If there are open-ended questions, if you can also front-load the questions to people or give it ahead of time and say, hey, what I'm looking for is 1 sentence or 20 seconds or whatever it is, and then they can have that prepared for when they come, and then you also have that time allotted. Because it is nice to hear from all the participants. It gets their energy invested. When you hear their voice, then we're more accountable as a group. So it is a great idea, but just to be aware of the timing of how long that takes. Because facilitating online, you haven't done it before.
This is the first time.
It's totally different, right? It's so different, but I mean, you're gonna rock it, but it's just got a different the feedback loop is a different tempo, you know, so. Are you using the Zoom platform?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you can control, you can mute people if they keep going, or take the focus off them if you have to, which you won't, but just, you know, it's a great tool. Okay, the hours here. Yeah, and I would just invite you again, like, this is like, technology is a skill, like anything else. And just to log your, like, and you did great on that transition. It drew out a little bit, right? You know, but just logging the time, like for example, this is for everybody, I would say, is like, I go to the extreme of everything when I'm training. So when I'm practicing for like a keynote, what I did was I went out, I bought a projector, I bought a clicker, I bought everything, and I simulated the space. I traveled with all my own gear, my own mics. I'm never at the mercy of anybody else, ever. I traveled with like 8 mics. I have a complicated show, but so I simulate, I engineer that environment as much as I can. So I would get a monitor, I would get my computer, I would get everything that I'm going to be doing, and I would log time doing that. Just that thing and that interaction to a camera or whatever it is, like engineer that as much as possible and log time with that specific thing. That's, I think, one of the most valuable techniques. So even though it's redundant to get like a projector, right? I'm not going to travel with my own projector to an event, you know. But I didn't get an expensive one, but it makes a difference because then I'm like, oh, HDMI cable going in. I'm clicking here, I'm looking here, but it's coming there. So just that point of me having my confidence monitor here, but I'm referencing here, right? That makes a difference of how I present myself and how I carry myself. You know what I mean? So it's a subtle thing, but could help. One idea is just in the teaser here, just to tell us what is HeartMath. I know what it is because I've researched it and I love it, but just tell it just in a sentence, because you talked about it for a moment, but you didn't actually tell us what it was. And then help master stress. Great purpose statement. I mean, it's really awesome. Yeah, I love it. Stress is a tool and a motivator. I don't need to tell you that that's awesome, but I just did. Yeah, and that's and then you put it, and then the last thing, you make it bigger than this class because you say this is a pilot. We're making this to benefit the world, the greater world. So that automatically puts enthusiasm into people because they're like, oh, I'm contributing. We all want to be a part of the community. We all want to be a part of something bigger than us. And so when you say that, it's like, oh, I'm really going to show up because I'm going to do it for Jimmy Bob or Danny Sue or whatever names. I don't know anybody by either one of those names, but like, then it's bigger than me, and so I really want to show up to support you, to support them, which was really cool. Awesome. I'm excited.
Maybe a little music in your intro when you first come in, just get people amped and kind of moving, whatever your most stress relieving song is, and let them know. When I used to play football a while back, if our coach stuck us in a position, even if we didn't know it, and game time, he never wanted us to tell what we couldn't do or weren't good at it. So even though you're not good with computers, don't tell us. We don't care. Half of us probably don't know, or we have the same issue.
Yeah.
So just don't tell us. The last thing is it says master your stress. I always like to kind of play with things like that, so I just played with it a little bit and master your stress and become blessed. You have just a little jingle to stick in your head.
Something like behind it all, it's like master your stress so you can bless. That's
Okay,
my
yeah.
internal.
There you go.
coming from.
Wow, that's visit right there. I love it. I
That
love
would be a
it.
whole thing that you could riff on. Do you have more, Zachary?
I'm done. I'm not.
Okay, Christy.
So a couple of tips on Zoom. So have you used it before?
This is the first time, so
Okay.
yeah, it's a little out of my comfort zone.
All right, so I don't know if you noticed, but you're muted and you're not recording.
Okay.
Okay.
I noticed.
Well, and I think that's fabulous because what you're doing is exactly what Bronkart just suggested. You are actually using the medium that you're going to use tonight. So just a couple of tips with using Zoom. Make sure you get very comfortable with the controls because you don't want to try and muddle through that while you have people on the phone. You want to record always, and you can actually set up your default Zoom settings to do that. So then you don't have to worry about it. Just say always record, period, and then I don't have to worry
And
about it.
like this would have been a perfect opportunity
Yes.
to record,
Yes.
right?
Sure,
And
yeah.
then you watch it when you're in your car, right? As you're driving.
But
to
the,
plant,
but
right?
yeah, right. But the beautiful thing is we have all of it recorded here, so
Yeah.
you're good. But
He knew that. He already thought.
he's like, no, I'm good. The other thing is if you don't have an external camera, it's very common for people to kind of like get down like this and try and get close to the camera, because you were looking at us, you weren't looking at the camera, which is fine, but because it's on your monitor, and your monitor, that's typically not going to be at your eye level, you want to kind of set up your studio so that you can actually have a natural posture. So that's just something to think about with Zoom. Here's the thing, Steve, I thought that was a lot different from what we saw 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of, like, you've kind of taken a lot of the comments to heart and really put it into play. I would either, if you don't want to do it, I would maybe spend a little bit of money on Fiverr or Upwork or something like that. Have somebody pop your slides. Just get them like a little bit of color, a little bit of something different. Just
Fiverr does that?
Fiverr, yep,
With
yep.
double, yeah.
With 2 R's at the end. Because it shouldn't be too expensive. If you don't have to do a whole lot of stuff, but it should look a little bit more, just pop a little bit more. I loved it. I thought you did a great job, and you looked so comfortable,
Yeah.
like just sitting there. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm in class.
Can I parlay on,
Yeah.
just since you were doing the technical stuff, also lighting is a huge one.
Yes.
If you don't have to do it today, but we have like a $100 lighting kit. You can get them online, and you can get like, a couple umbrellas, and you can get like a nice setup, and if you want to do a backdrop, you have, green, black, white. But it's just like, invest a few bucks to have lighting. You don't have to do the backdrop, you can do whatever, but just be aware of it. Because lighting is like pretty important, so it doesn't like pixelate and get all funky.
I've got Dennis next.
Steve, you are clearly well organized. I like the alliteration that you had. I forget what it was, but one of the words was sane. You had 3 S's in a row. I thought that was good. Very well organized, no question. I run into this issue myself a lot. In fact, that was some of my feedback today is that, okay, you're talking about something that's very calm, but you sort of have to be excited at the same time. I've played with this a little bit, but how to get a little bit of voice modulation. Because it's a very strong part of you is that you have such a soothing voice. On the other hand, it could be a liability if used too much, right? So the only other thing was on the Zoom is, and I do this doing mindfulness classes online, is in line with like Broncar was saying to practice it and be able to practice it in different ways, even recording on Zoom. So that you can do your own video on there as if you're doing the class and then play it back and just see what you're doing. I mean, you may already know that, but.
Yeah, another thing I use Zoom every single day, so I'm pretty familiar about that. One of the things that you want to make sure is that when you're doing the actual class, you want to be looking at the camera. And so if you have a panel of people, you will tend to be looking at the faces of the people. And although it's uncomfortable not to see at the faces, you want to see at the little camera on the computer screen, unless you have a camera, like behind it, like Logitech camera or something with a tripod. And if talking about lighting, for example, if you don't want to spend the money for now, and you have a decent background, you can always face a window and put your camera, your computer and sit in, so you're facing a window, so you will have a very soothing light, and you will always be like, in the light side of so you're not going to have shadows or anything like that. That really works well. And remember to unmute yourself when you're speaking. You're muted. You were muted too. So, yeah, you can, like he said, you can make all that automatic before you even start, and then not allow the participants to be unmuted unless you want them to. Okay.
Rob, did you have something?
First of all, I just want to say, Steve, I thought that was a great idea, how you practice your courses, your Zoom course on, right in class. But also, an additional idea maybe is that once you get it totally recorded, or maybe record a different version, you can maybe put it on another online platform, so people can just go to it and go at their own pace, as opposed to having to go to when you're giving the course
Yes.
exactly online.
Yes.
A lot of people are, doing very well with that, very lucrative. And then the other thing was, somebody mentioned lighting. Until you get good lighting or whatever, like she said, you can sit in front of the light, or you could bounce light off the walls around you. Like if you have a light at the house, you can bounce it off the walls and it will come on you, so that it won't be directly on you and splashing your image or on your face a lot. It's just different ideas for the light.
I'm a fan of powder. I'm a fan of powder. So a little translucent powder, you take your glasses off, you have a brush, and it's amazing how actor-like men get when they've got a little powder on their face.
Yeah.
They just look so,
And you can also get like, somebody just used this on me last week, and I'd never seen it before. It's like a little marker kind of thing. It's not even like it's just a little marker. There was like, it was the tiniest.
I don't even know about
I don't know
that.
what it was. I didn't know, maybe you knew the name, but it
That I
was,
don't know about. I just know about powder, like for your head, and anything that will reflect. The other thing is you can take your glasses and just tilt them up, or put a little masking tape under there so that they tilt up so you can still see, but they're not going to reflect, and we're actually going to see your eyes. Because I think it's going to be important for us. We want to connect with you. We want to really see you. We want to really feel like you are our stress guru, and you are piercing us with your wisdom and your guruness. That's my feeling. And along those lines, I was thinking that a little bit of time connecting, and this is almost like an inside job, I think. Whether it's holding them before you turn the camera on and just saying, I am so present with all of you. I am so ready to lead you out of this dark, chaotic world you're living in into this beautiful stress place. I don't know, there's something that you can create inside you about them. I knew one trainer who said that he would come to the room early and he would go over every chair and would just like send love to every chair, But I was thinking I want to feel more connected to you, and that might be more of an inside thing than something very specific that you're doing. I do say always be a master, always be beautiful, always be beautiful. And I think that has to do with that crouching that other people spend, like what it's like when you're over the screen.
Yeah.
But it's also that like here, so there's nothing in the background, so there isn't anything there to add to who you are, what you're about, what you're saying, there's nothing there. Even if there was, I don't know what your colors are, violet, lavender, I love those colors, and that's something to do with stress or whatever, but the backdrop is one thing, but there can also be a choice about what I want to say about what we're doing here that I intentionally put in the frame. Put these things in the frame.
Wonderful. That is great.
And then the other thing is that eyeline matters, that was already spoken about, but I have a thing where I love faces, I love people, so when I have to compete with someone's face down here and that little circle that little spot where the camera is here, I don't feel good. I feel in conflict with myself, I want them to know I'm so present with them. I'm looking right into the camera. I'm right there. But the wall is giving me nothing, So I'm looking right in there. And I'm doing that because what it feels like when someone is really looking at you really matters, right? So I have this thing that I do where I put a thing right here, and I put faces like right here. And then I also make sure that any faces I have down here are shoved all the way up. I really believe somebody's going to make a product that is like a gauzy, filmy, plasticky thing like you see in an alien movie, like a texture like that that's going to go right across the screen, and the camera's going to be in the middle. And you're still going to be able to see everything else on the screen, Somebody's going to make that. But in the meantime, I put those pictures there because I just feel like I want to be giving love. And it's hard to do that into a little hole.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you all very much.
Just one more thing. When you say reasonable amount, I would give a number, say, 15 minutes, because a lot of people have a different idea of what a reasonable amount is. And then also when you first started, you were into it probably 3 or 4 minutes before you said, you know, this is going to be an interactive course. You see the chat box, but you can turn it off. So you might want to bring people into faster if you want it to be interactive.
Oh, what if you said, there's the chat box, everybody, send me some love, you know, send me some love. Or send me the thing you're most stressed about, so I can get a feel for all y'all. Go ahead and use that chat box, and that will,
Yeah, but at least that will, you know, bring them in and you're not sitting there, should I ask questions, should I not ask questions?
Okay.
And then about the reasonable amount, that just gives people, it's like, oh, if it's less than 15 minutes or 5 emails, that's reasonable. But any more than that, you know, we'll just need to talk about maybe a one-on-one counseling session or, you know, how we can work together.
how about that as a good selling tool? Like if you find yourself like the 1 minute isn't enough for you today, I would love
Yeah,
to have more time with you and book a session with me.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sell something.
There you go.
And also on your slides, you should say who you are, your website address, and then also your email address and your phone number.
You could have it start flashing, book now. No, just.
In general, I think you could, you know, put a banner on the bottom. You do a really good job about it. You know, you put a banner at the bottom of your slides that has all your, you know, it's like connect with me on LinkedIn, whatever. You know, draw them in that you want to be part of their new little circle and each other. And then the other thing too is, you know, connect with each other, you know.
I thought about setting a Facebook private group for the course.
Yeah, so, but I think that there's ways you can bring them in sooner, that they're part of it, rather than being preachy at the, you know, where it takes a while to get into it, say, hey, this is interactive, you know. Do you see what I'm saying?
And also sometimes people drop, so maybe you want to say, so good to have you here. If you're not on my private Facebook group yet, I want you to be it. And you just send me a request and I'll say yes, and we'll be connected.
Yeah.
And then
That's
along the
that's
line,
it.
I'm sorry, and then along the
I'm
line.
sorry, is it 1:15 then?
Oh, it's great.
Well, we're at 27 minutes now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I think we should close, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Can you like-
yep, I was about to say, you guys can connect.
Thank you.
All right, we want to make sure we give Broncar a little bit of time.